Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, it looks like everybody's here, so I think we have a motion to move one of the items up.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to take old business, point B, request for additional block reservation tee times tin whistle, to a vote.
Second.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's open that up for discussion. And this is,
Approve the minutes to last meeting first, and then I think
That's up to the committee, if you guys like to look at the minutes first and then do that item. I don't see our 10 municipal representative here quite yet, so you might want to,
that's not voting on.
He will not be here. I talked to
oh, he's not here.
Derek this afternoon, he had a
Okay.
doctor's appointment,
Okay,
but he did express a wish that we vote on it.
okay. Why don't you go ahead and do the minutes, and then if there's any oral communication items unrelated to anything on the agenda, and then we can jump to that item.
All right, I assume everybody had a chance to look at the minutes, and I'm entertaining a motion for approval.
Yes, I motion to approve.
And second?
Yeah, second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, you want to go ahead with the tin whistle? I don't know what they'll show.
So,
You understand what's going on with the tin whistle? They're asking for one more time.
I believe two
they're
or
asking
four
for
now, they would like
two
six.
more times, yeah. They're looking for a total of 6 times, once a month on Fridays. My understanding is they have a pretty long wait list. But as the staff report indicates, staff would like to advise the committee that tee times are always slim pickings, and we hear frequently from golfers that it's hard to get tee times as it is. And that is also why later on in the agenda we're looking at another item to further mitigate issues with getting tee times. So it would be up to the committee if you want to allow 2 additional tee times or keep them where they're at.
I'd like to get a little feedback from the staff, and I see Vinny's here. What are your feelings, Vinny?
Right now, we get complaints every day that people can't get tee times, so.
And we will continue that forever, so.
And so, it's better than every other Friday if there's not a men's club tournament, but that's up to you guys. They seem to get a couple extra times before and after the block that they have, so I'm not against it, but it's just people are having a hard time getting tee times anyway, so.
So, you have some input from committee?
I've asked around, I've played the course for over 40 years. I have not been actively part of the tin whistle for that time, just recently. So I asked about it. What I understand, it was kind of a tradition that started in the 70s, and it has been once a month. And then COVID came on, and then it went away. And this is an effort to bring it back as part of a tradition on a Friday, once a month, not every Friday, just once a month.
They're asking for once a month. I mean, I used to play in it in the 60s, and it was every Friday, so, but they didn't have the starting time.
Is it 6 tee times once a month is what that was?
Correct. They have 4 right now, and the request is to add 2 more, starting at 10:15, I believe.
How does that go on with the men's club Friday tournaments? That's once a month too. Is this tin whistle going to be opposite that some way?
They kind of pick out what Friday they want to use a month in advance. So it's maybe
Not to conflict with the men's club?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any comments? Yeah?
Just know, like Robert's saying, it's been a tradition. It used to be weekly. went away. Now they're reestablishing that. It's very popular. It's open to a variety of different people. I think, you know, I am personally one who has played in it a handful of times, several times, so it seems like a good opportunity to bring the community together.
Well, you said weekly, is it trying to come back to weekly?
No, just once a month.
No, once a month.
Just reestablish what, you know, in a smaller way.
Personally, I'd like to see it go through. I think the course is given to us actually for the city and to provide golf for the city, so these obviously are being used by the city to Tin Whistle, some of the regular members and stuff, which I would assume 85–90% of them live in the city.
I would say most people who play in the whistle are, you know, the locals that use the course on a regular basis.
Well, my comment would be not to give it because they're all members of the men's club and they're all getting tea times through the men's club anyway. So this is an additional area for them to get tea times that no one else can get. So I would be voting no.
Okay. Is it because it's not including the women?
No, it's because I don't think because it was a tradition that means they should get tea times over people that can't, residents who can't get a tea time. Because they already have 4 tea times and
This is not a men's club organization. There have been 2 women that played in it a few weeks ago. Yeah. It's open to everybody.
It's open to everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, well, we can put it to a vote.
I'd like to make a motion that we add the 2 tea times once a month on Fridays for the Tin Whistle.
Any seconds?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got 4 ayes and a nay. So it's passed. All right, oral communications. You got any cards?
No.
Nope.
Not for oral communications.
All right. Old business. Let's go up with the golf master plan. We have another presentation going on?
Yeah, good evening, golf committee members, members of the public. Thank you for coming this afternoon. I'm Samantha Weiland, the Beaches Parks and Recreation Director. We also have Jordan Gilmar, golf course manager, who's here. And on Zoom, we have our consulting team that includes THK, Dan Conway, and Ned Proser, as well as Staples Golf, Andy Staples, and Josh. They are zooming in and are prepared to give insight to the proposed plan ahead of the committee and before the public this evening. I do want to note that this is purely conceptual. I know that in all of my experience doing master plans, there are we want reactions, we want public engagement, we have to start somewhere. So the point of this afternoon is to just do exactly that. Start with the plan and continue to get feedback so we can continue to modify and mold the plan to make sure it matches what the committee's looking for and stakeholders as well as our golfers of the golf course. So the staff report summarizes what the high-level details are of the concept design. Again, we met previously and we talked about what are the real priorities of this plan. And those are summarized, there's about 6 of them, those are summarized in the staff report. We heard a number of comments from the public and the committee members at that time as well. But really what resounded was we want access to the facilities, we want practice facility improvements. And we heard loud and clear that there needs to be changes within the food and beverage service as well, along with support for Jordan's staffing levels and equipment also. So I would love to turn this over to Andy Staples so he can provide really the in-depth overview of where his team drove this concept. And then from there, we would love to hear comments from the committee. I believe you're going to have a number of public speaker cards as well. The goal tonight is to either give feedback to the consulting team so we can come back to the drawing board and bring another recommendation and design, or provide a recommendation for council going forward. So you have a couple of avenues to look at, but this is again part of the public process, and we're excited to continue to learn and get more feedback from everybody in the room. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. All right, let me get set up here. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let me get this played. Got a couple of slides here. Just thanks again for letting us go through this. I'm excited to talk through these initial concepts with y'all. Thanks for Dan and Ned to be here. I'm also going to bring in Josh, who's put a lot of work into this as well. So we'll do our best to give you as much of the insight into this design and the concepts and the reasons, knowing that we're going to try to just hit the highlights. So we certainly be open for questions and comments later. But also want to just draw attention, thanks to Sam for all your support, and Jordan. So I just want to also tell this group the amount of work that Jordan's put in for us and helped us kind of drive some of these maintenance conditions, the quality of the golf course, the putting green discussions. So you've got a good one down there, so I just want to say thanks to him for helping us to get to this point. So, all right, I'll cruise through some slides here, give you some brief overview. Some of this might be a bit of review, but we'll end with a hole-by-hole analysis of what we've talked about. So yeah, I'm on the left, Josh on the right. Tim Cloninger is our agronomy and irrigation specialist to our team. We've also utilized a turf and soil testing lab called Turf and Soil Diagnostics. And then we've also engaged the USGA to help us with some studies on pace of play, et cetera. So, like I said, we've got some really good people, and we put a lot of time in this, and really excited with what we've started to talk about. All right, so from our last meeting, it was pretty clear that we were told to use these priorities, these 5 priorities to look at an upgrade to the practice facilities. It is obvious you need a new irrigation system, so we have included that in the overall plan. We're going to renovate all the bunkers. We're going to look for improved team quality, whether that means sizing or levelness, and then also spacing, meaning some forward tees, some more player-friendly tees wherever possible. I like to say that's a lower swing speed, say 65 miles an hour. There's a lot of science behind how those tees are placed. And then I certainly don't want to lose sight, and Samantha's already talked about it, the idea that this golf course is in dire need of new maintenance equipment. So you guys left us with those priorities, and they are still our top 5 of what we've talked about. But I also want to bring up, as we've gone through our reporting, we've done our best to learn how the community uses their golf course. We were out there multiple times, played the golf course multiple times. Also witnessed how you guys are all utilizing the facility, and so a couple other things started to come up. It's obvious the space for golfers continues to be a piece of this plan that warrants a lot of discussion, and I will tell you the space for golfers really started to become a bit of a priority for us, because we understand that the challenges that are happening in the clubhouse. So as we start talking about social centers and ranges and things like that, that was something that seemed to keep coming up in our design process. We did some testing. I'll go over in just a minute. One of the things Jordan was very clear on is that the greens are starting to show signs of holding a lot of moisture. The traffic that you don't have a lot of pin locations. The greens are very small. So he had expressed a desire to try to bring out the old green pads out to a larger size, and in some cases we are now brought, based on testing, based on the science behind what's going on under the ground, to propose some green rebuilding. There's some safety discussion around hole number 5 and number 12. I'm going to bring up number 13. The landscape design, whether or not we want to reduce turf or instill more native plants. There's an obvious need for cart path improvement and certainly drainage. And so when you start talking about irrigation, you start talking about bunkers, you start talking about some of the things that you get on this list now, that reflects a pretty strong amount of money and about really just infrastructure at that point. So now it poses the question, like, if we're going to get into those types of projects, what else can we do? Is it feasible? Does it warrant our attention to look at other things? Cart paths, for example, drainage. And so I want to just kind of set the vision to just kind of give you the feeling of where we're at with this plan. This is a plan for 30 years. This is an infrastructure plan. It's meant to address the things that may not have been addressed over the past years, namely infrastructure, irrigation, drainage, grease construction, turf, etc. But we want to make sure that it's appropriate for today. There's no doubt that your community is very passionate about your facility. You got a lot of people that have been playing there for a lot of years. But I think it behooves us all to think in terms of what is going to happen in the future. And so it warrants our attention to what the trends in the industry are doing, not only in terms of how we're selecting the infrastructure, but also as trends and habits of golfers change. And so you're gonna hear a lot about the driving range, you're gonna hear a lot about practice facilities, you're gonna hear a little bit about some community space that I think is really important that we consider. And so our vision truly is a plan built for 30 years. So now let's talk about trends and observations. I'm going to kind of cruise through some of these, but my intention for these slides are to give you the context of where we've driven our plan. So you stand up on the clubhouse, you look over your driving range. It's very obvious that if you're an avid golfer, you have a hard time practicing at your facility. Only I think 10 places. Very small, not very high quality. You've got a small chipping green, and you also do not have a good spot for the golfers to hang out afterwards. And so this space now started to become a showcase of driving ranges are sizable pieces of ground. A golf ball travels a long distance, some cases over 300 yards for the people that hit the ball that far. But the most important thing is that ball gets up in the air at least 90 feet, sometimes over 120 feet. So when balls are starting to be hit by drivers, they start to move offline. And so I see a lot of safety, a lot of opportunity to not only address what I think is just an underperforming in terms of safety, but no question, I could bring THK in this at some point, is there is a huge demand in terms of revenue production. I worked on a project with the county of San Luis Obispo up north where we brought in 10 top tracer bays. We actually did some revision of their golf course. Many of the same questions about changes to the course and the impact to the course, but this facility was a $1.5 million facility that has already paid back itself inside of 3 years. The revenue out of this one facility has just outperformed the golf course itself, and the social aspects of it are really quite impressive. That you can tap into a certain demographic here, and as you go around the country, the National Links Trust is a large community-oriented group out of the Washington, D.C. area. They have 3 golf courses. They are installing the top tracer technology around the driving range. You go down to West Palm Beach, Florida, the city course of West Palm. They just completely reimagined their city facility to address some of the things we're talking about, and not only for daytime hours, but they have lit their driving range. So this picture is their par 3 course, but if you look through this picture, you see the netting and see the lights in the background. That's their driving range, and so it has really become, in terms of a social center for golfers and non-golfers alike. And I think, to me, this is really a trend that the community of San Clemente needs to be aware of and consider. So you'll see a lot of us talking about this in our plan in a minute. Let's go back to the greens for a second. We did an analysis on the left-hand side, a lot of numbers here, but we basically went around your golf course and measured your greens. By all accounts, the amount of play that you have, they're probably 60%, if not less, of the size they should be. And so as you start to go through and look for ways to spread out that wear and tear and take what is an average of maybe 3,500 square feet, we'd like to see that to be over 5,000 square feet. So the reason why I draw this attention, the yellow circle is your current green on the 6th hole. The red is about a 30% increase to try to get a little bit more pin location. And so therein lies the question. You can't just start mowing grass to get pin locations. There's slope issues, there's turf issues. And so what we did is we then went and sent out samples to the turf diagnostics group, and a lot of text here. We took 2 samples out of these are core samples where you pull the entire core out of the green itself. A lot in this report, but I wanted to draw attention here that the tests show a variety of different depths in construction and contributing to high water holding capacity on greens, which Jordan's done a great job to continue to provide the conditions that he has, but it is time for these greens to be considered for rebuilding, especially if you start discussing additional pin locations and sizes. It's just not that feasible to just start adding space. I think we have to dig deeper of what really makes a green tick. And the USGA, and there's a few different ways to build greens. The USGA is recognized as the leader in how to build putting greens, and what you're seeing on the right is a highly technical, highly tested specification. You have this under your greens, however, over the years of maintenance and top dressing and lack of some maintenance resources, we've actually found that it's not functioning properly. So we're considering to kind of restore back to what you had already had in these USGA greens, get good functioning greens with a lot of good drainage. You're seeing here sand on top of gravel with piping, and this is just a little snippet out of an entire green. It's a section. So we're proposing to rebuild all of your greens in this proposal. So as we go through a couple more, looking through the mind's eye of the architect, so to speak, it's just a shame that you're sitting out behind the 15th green. The 15th hole plays away from the ocean. Then you turn down and go down the hill and kind of lose one of the more dramatic parts and vista points of your golf course. I immediately see this as being an opportunity. It's just a shame that it's not utilized in the routing. There's a really neat par 3, and you'll see that in the routing here in a minute, that I think, if you think about all the holes on your golf course, there's a lot of really good holes, but this certainly could be a showcase, and it's right there without a lot of effort. We talked a little bit about safety on number 5 already. The homeowners on the left see balls. We want to address that. We're going to try to do that in our bunker placement and tee location without making modifications. And this is a good time to kind of just to suggest that we did look through the lens of how to make the least amount of change to the golf course. In our experience, we understand change is not always easy, but as you start to put your priorities together and you start thinking about ways to actually address these real priorities, safety is one of them. We think the 5th hole is a way to be able to direct things with bunkers. The 12th hole, another one. But let's go over to the 13th hole. You've got a tee that's aimed left. You got houses on the left. You've got a net that's sort of helping golf balls, but they're really not. There's the green back around there. I'd like to see some trees removed if this hole doesn't ultimately get removed. You'll notice that here in a minute. And then as I go down from the right side of the 13th green and look up to the 14th, I see a different angle that might actually improve some, not only safety on the left-hand side, but if you look up through this tree, there is some open area there that we could actually utilize a little bit better, get people to direct play a little bit further away to the right. And when the tees move down over here, it starts to get very close to the 13th hole. So we got the 15th, you've got that unused land by 15, we've got maybe a bit of an unsafe hole on number 13. That now it's started to drive some thought of what can we do with this space. I was drawn, and I am drawn, if you do any research on our company, we do a lot of community golf discussion, and being able to find ways to bring space and bring community that don't necessarily play golf into our golf course. Now I know that you don't have a whole lot of trouble getting people on your golf course, but maybe this is a spot here that becomes a community space, a dog park, you got a restroom. And so I was driven to saying, okay, maybe 13 is already not a very safe hole. Maybe it's something that we could actually make this an expanded community park. And you'll see in just a minute, I actually have a putting hole, which could also be a community putting green if that was something that was desired. So I want to spend a little time finishing before we get into the design, just giving you a little bit of background. Anyone that may not know, and those that do, just kind of refresher that you got a really cool architectural history. This is Billy Bell on the left-hand side. He's standing next to George Thomas in the middle, and Alistair McKenzie on the right, two of the more prolific golf course architects. If you know Alistair McKenzie, if you heard Augusta National and Cypress Point, he's pretty well known. The guy in the middle did Riviera, Bel Air, LA Country Club north of you. So very, very, very prolific, and Billy Bell learned from those guys. He happened to be the person who designed your original 9 holes. So this is your course today. And we overlaid an old aerial in 1938. I'll kind of go back and forth. So we did some research to see what that 1930 Billy Bell golf course. So Riviera was built in 1926, where Billy Bell was the construction superintendent, and by 1930 he's building your golf course. So there's a lot of things that I can see very clearly that there was some influence. As architects, you know, just a couple of years later, you knew what Riviera was doing. So I'm going to draw attention to the 4th hole on the left. It's a green. It's not very good quality. 8th green on the right. You see the bunker style, the way the greens. I can see the greens being a bit larger than what you have today in the style of the bunkering. Now, granted, this may not necessarily fit for San Clemente, but this is the 6th hole at Riviera. You can see the nature and the naturalness of these bunkers. And this is Billy Bell building these. And when I go out in your golf course and I see the 12th hole, I actually see some of that. So there's some really good, I know the 12th hole isn't an original Billy Bell. Maybe a son built this hole, but maybe it evolved, what I would say is very consistent with that style. But then go over the 5th hole and some other bunkers. You see the way that it's eroded and the more modern style is kind of deteriorated. So I think there's a really cool kind of historical connection, doing it in a way that is maintainable and functional, but still drawing on your history. And I think Billy Bell should take a prime role in what we're doing, and I think it has. All right, so I thought it's important for me to just kind of list things out. I'm going to list things, I'm going to get a little bit into the implementation, and I'm going to hand it over to Josh, so he's going to go quickly hole by hole. So again, list of projects. So this plan that you're about to see keeps the main priorities intact. So we're going to upgrade the practice facilities, but in order to upgrade the practice facilities, we need the space. So by taking that space and doing it as efficiently as possible, we have to adjust some holes. So 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 10. The entire course gets a brand new irrigation system, new pumping systems. Pretty straightforward. We're going to renovate all the bunkers, and in some cases we might eliminate bunkers and move bunkers. There might be 2 bunkers, there might be 1 bunker. They might not all be in the same place, but every single one of them will be renovated. We do not see getting any more bunkers or more square footage, but we see those to be consistent with Bell's style. All the tees will be addressed and forward tees put in place, and then the maintenance equipment is a dire need. That will be in our project budget no matter what. So then, as we go through, the plan expands past that kind of core group of projects where we wanted to use the range to create that social space. We think that there's a way to connect the clubhouse to a separate building that could be dedicated for golfers and have that building be designed cohesively with a double-decker range tee. The 13th hole we're proposing to remove in place of a new par 3, I'll get to in a minute, and use that community space for dog parks, for trail connectivity, and a putting hole. Yeah, and I think you have to look outside of traditional golf a little bit. Yes, I'm proposing a 19th hole, and yes, with a new par 3 over the looking hole, I'll have two par 3s back to back, 15 and, well, what would now be 14 and 15. But I think, again, addressing things for today, but also looking to the future, these are the things that I think are exciting and should be considered. All your greens will be renovated, including the complexes, and I want to draw attention to a great majority of the holes, with the exception of a couple tees, will remain intact. And so we really have 3 projects to consider as we kind of comment. Just think of holes 4, 5, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Those are all the same routing, same greens, and same green locations with some bunker renovations. Then you have the range, and you're going to see how the range affects the overall routing of the course. As the footprint expands of the range, we have to make some modifications. And then we can talk about how the 15th hole, or that new par 3, and that removal of 13. So I'd like the group to be thinking of those types of discussions. The range area, the rest of the holes that aren't touched, and that new par 3. And I just want to address on this, it's always a topic of conversation. To be honest with you, the budget isn't nearly as important as a loss to golf course to the community. So there are options, and I'm preferring, and doing this a lot, is that if you closed your golf course and did it all at once, is the cheapest, most efficient way of doing it. However, I would be open to considering a front 9 and a back 9, or doing something on one or other sides of the road. I think there is a way to keep some of the golf course open. However, we need to discuss cost versus disruption. What I'm not interested in, and I don't think is possible, mainly based on irrigation, is doing 1 or 2 holes at a time. When you deal with greens and you deal with irrigation, it's just not feasible to do small chunks. And I think ultimately what we're trying to do here is maintain quality. And so I know that was a quick run through, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand it over to Josh. We'll tag team this a little bit, so Josh is going to kind of walk you through. He's worked hard on this plan. Josh, if you can share your screen and show the group.
Yep, bring it up. All right, everybody seeing the whole plan here?
Yep, I think so.
All right, so yeah, as Andy talked, I think we just want to think of this kind of in the 3 projects, and I, walk through this kind of as you're experiencing it from the parking lot, to the clubhouse range area. Then we'll start to trickle ourselves into some of these other holes. So I'm going to zoom in here first on the parking lot. And kind of the idea, I think we touched on this a little bit last meeting, was that we think there's definitely a need to think about parking in the future, whether or not that's something that gets implemented at the same time as these golf course improvements or some of these other things we're discussing. That's kind of the conversation. When you look at the golf course, there's really not a lot of available space, as we all know. So we kind of decided that underground parking probably made the most sense to look at in terms of budget and planning for the future and conserving some of that space. So that will probably show up later in our recommendations, but for now you'll just see the parking lot in the same footprint here. As we move down across the street here towards the clubhouse, I think this is where we talk about, how can we improve this landscape and the entry and the experience for the golfer arriving to the course, how can we improve some safety, get a little more outdoor-indoor connection. So, and also addressing the putting green, that was one major improvement we discussed, was getting a larger putting green, something that's actually usable and representative of the greens you have on the course. So we're proposing taking out the existing green in front of the clubhouse, making that an opportunity for an outdoor patio space. Again, that will be probably detailed later as we go through our recommendations. But this really seemed like the most logical spot. Again, this can be reviewed. We can review other places as well, but this area where 1 and 10 tees are right now is a very easy grade to work with. It's right up front, one of the first things you see, and it's got a great connection to where the range is and the clubhouse. It just seems to be a natural fit for a putting green, and this thing actually gets up to 10,000 square feet. That is a really good size for a green that can get some movement, some contouring in, and really make it a fun community asset. So I'm going to skip over the changes that occur with 1 and 10. We'll come back to those. But as you go from the green, then that leads you into the range experience. And so I'm going to zoom in a little closer here on the tees. This is kind of the opportunity Andy discussed with some of the social centers that can be addressed at the same time as the range. You'll see here we got a little more width on the range tee area towards number 1. We did all the measurements, the safety recommendations, and this seems to be the most logical place to make that expansion and get it to fit with minimal change to the rest of the holes. So You'll see here, this goes from your existing 15 bays. This allows for us to extend up to 20 bays, a little more width on each of these bays than you currently have. And then as Andy said, there's an opportunity if we want to look at an expanded social center, that this can become a double-decker range opportunity. This rectangle here represents a potential expansion for, a range center, food, beverage, that sort of thing, all hosted within the same area as the range. Gives you a little more space also behind the clubhouse on the ground floor that we can work with for cart staging, other social spaces. So really think of this as kind of a social center along with the range. So from there, I'm going to make my way down the range here. You'll see as part of the range upgrade, we're trying to get a little more space as far as how far the driver gets. As everyone knows, everyone's seeing the golf ball a lot further these days than when this original range frame was put in even 10, 15 years ago. So we did our analysis and we try to get our ranges to have, at least 300, if not more, yards of open, direct line from the tees. And so you see the 250 here and the 300. This is really where some of your bigger hitters, this is the landing zone that their drives, even with range balls, are going to be landing into. We want to make sure that our range is long enough behind that as well to accommodate those longer shots. We think this footprint does. And that also gives us some opportunity as well to come in here, add upgraded range targets, places for people to hit towards. These are all strategically placed with different yardages and angles of approach that you can practice different shot shapes. And just gives you something visual to look down the range and actually have a goal in mind when you're hitting your shots and not just going for yardage. So as that comes to the back end, you see 300 yards. You have a little more. This actually plays out to about 330 up to this arc here. And then on the back end, that gives us some room to play around with a natural grass keeping area, tee in the back end. That's still within the safety clearance on the back end of that range. Opportunity for some wedge range targets for, wedge practice, getting those yards dialed in. And then way back here, as some of these pieces fall into place, you'll notice hole number 2 is getting removed in order to make this space. Number 3 is getting shortened into a new number 2, the par 3, and that leaves us a little extra room back here as well for an expanded chipping green and short game practice area, which, as you know, your current one is very small. We're not proposing to get rid of that one at this point, but having 2 options and an option that's a little further away from the parking lot, some of that traffic, has a space to really have an enhanced practice experience. So that is the majority of the changes on the range. I'm going to pause briefly. If Andy has any more input on that, I'll let him jump in.
Yeah, no, Josh, the only thing you missed, we'd imagine that clubhouse might be a little bit of a catwalk connection from the clubhouse over to the expanded social center. That's a small detail. You're doing great. Keep going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that would be a seamless transition on the top story where your current bar and restaurant area is. That would connect across here. You're not going up and down stairs, obviously, to get into this area. So I think then let's jump into talk about some of the holes that were, be affected with this range footprint. I know this is where some of the change comes into play, but we think it's important. We think it's an opportunity to bring, some really cool golf holes here that, will play just as good, if not better, and keep a very similar experience to the course you already have. So the first area to look at here is just the putting green. We're seeing number 1 tee shorten a little bit. And because of that, that would make the current green where it is a very, very short hole. And we think, with this range, from an expansion, getting rid of the number 2 tees already, there's an opportunity here to lengthen number 1, build a new green site over here where number 2 tees used to be, getting a very strong opening hole, very strategic with the way the bunkers come around the dog leg, using some of the slope from the original green as kind of a kicker and letting the fairway roll itself towards this green here, and just building a new number 1 hole experience. That will also transition down towards number 2. So that number 2 is removed. That piece for the range. Coming to number 3, this is a similar yardage to your current number 2, but it's placed to number 3 green. You see that just being all renovated in place, and that would become your new hole number 2. So everything past that point will just shift 1 hole back from what you're used to right now. Your current number 3, or current number 4, new number 3, very minor modifications to the bunker strategy, removing a few bunkers that really aren't in play except for the lesser hitters. Number 4, as Andy mentioned, trying to improve some safety here. So you'll see the angle of this tee shift slightly get a new bunker on the corner here that could guide people's eye away from the left side of that fairway, pitching the fairway a little more to the right as we have room. That's going to improve safety just a little bit on this hole and while keeping some of the same strategy. You'll see the green strategy doesn't change much at all. Number 6, now number 5, stays basically the same footprint. And then we go across the road, and this is where, when we lose the third hole and adjust that second hole, there's a need for another hole here to get your 9 holes in the front. So we're proposing a new reverse Redan style par 3 hole across from where number 17 currently plays at the beginning of that fairway. That'll be a brand new hole, new green, new bunker, and the cart path would actually be rerouted across around the left side of that and bring it to some access for the new hole number 7, which in this case currently plays as a par 5. It's a shorter par 5. We're proposing that shortened to a par 4, new tees, and this angle will actually play you up into the slope a little bit, so that's actually a better tee angle. The current one from here has you actually aiming more towards number 8, and there's a lot of shots I'm sure that get sprayed out into number 8. So this improved angle uses the natural topography better, plays up to the same green locations. Number 8, very minimal change, keeping the green in the same place, the bunker strategy very similar. Number 9, again, keeping the green in the same place. We see an opportunity here to get a really cool Billy Bell inspired bunker on the front, expanding that green just a little bit more to get some more strategic pin locations, but leaving some room, from the shorter tee where a ball can run up there, still not trying to make a complete forced carry. So that sums up the majority of the front 9. Again, those are the couple of changes we see just in order to incorporate the driving range, getting the new number 1 and new number 2 in there, adding the 6th hole. Those are the major changes we see on the front. So then let's move over to the back 9. Looking at number 10, so again with the putting green moving in here, number 10 tees we're actually proposing to rebuild further left of where they currently are, adjusting the cart path as needed. This again actually improves that angle, gets people aiming away from the road a little more. Your current angle has people hitting on more direct lines to the street here. This new angle, along with this bunker we're proposing in the corner, will get people aimed a little more directly to the green while keeping some of the same strategy with the green and bunker placement here. Number 11 in this case, to make some room for number 1, the tees will shift a little bit left, but keeping a very similar yardage, very similar angle. The rest of the hole, not too much change as you can see. Number 12, another one, we see another bunker here that really is in play for anyone besides the shortest of hitters. So again, I know there's some use for these bunkers in terms of visually directing people away from the street. So we are keeping that same bunker strategy up here, and then adding a bunker further up the fairway for the longer hitters, just to add a little more challenge for that area past the landing. So then we'll jump over here where current number 13 is, and this is where Andy was saying there's some opportunity here. Again, some of the safety issues present on current number 13. Number 14 tees really, aiming people, again, towards the street here, another safety issue. So whether this is a putting hole, community space, a combination of both, we see an opportunity here that this 13th hole can be reimagined. It gets the space to make those couple of changes and really making this whole area a community asset. This putting hole here, for example, has a couple different pin locations. It can also double as a putting course for the community to use, all right next to the existing restroom, and this whole space can really be reimagined along that corridor. Then the changes, this is now 13 instead of 14. Moving the tees, like Andy said, getting that angle to play more up the slope and away from the home. Removing the cart path, this is one that really comes into play visually. So I think moving that cart path to the right also gives us a little more fairway room to the right, helps improve that angle into the green, and again, direct people away from these homes on the left. Number 14, current number 15, plays very much the same, adjusting some bunker strategy, getting some Billy Bell inspired character into these, especially with being a really iconic drop shot hole. I think, focusing on the bunkers here really makes this even more of a memorable hole. And then we come up to where Andy was discussing earlier about kind of this lost opportunity and all this usable space up here for another really cool par 3, looking directly towards the ocean and playing down here. So we see this as a good add, and that's where you get the extra hole that was lost in number 13 there. Going on to 16, The tee is really staying in place. You might have to adjust a little bit to get the green in here, but really don't lose all that much yardage. Getting some more yards on the back tee here. And this whole area, we would see coming in, doing some tree clearing, really opening that view up to, again, get views of the ocean, and just make that way more playable. And you'll see we also move the cart path to the right side here, so we want to make sure that this edge, you're not having a hard concrete barrier visually as well as playable. We want to make sure that fairway gets as close to the edge of the ravine as possible, and really opening that up to, especially for the shorter hitters, to be able to clear that area. So you see the green stays in very much a similar spot. Then we move over to 17. This is the hole that we just saw an opportunity to strategically, it's a very narrow fairway right now. There's some space to the left here that if you take out a few trees, adjust the bunker strategy a little bit, get a little more width in here. Hole still plays a very similar strategy, just getting a little more width for the shorter hitters, especially, again, with this long course carry here. This gives a little more room for them to land the ball up near the landing area and have a better chance at the greens too. And then finally, 18, you'll see there's some space back here where there's an old green. So we see some potential for some yardage expansion there, moving the blue tee back potentially, getting that landing area to play more on top of the ridge instead of, a lot of people run the ball currently down that slope to the bottom here. This makes this pad a little harder to carry, but it keeps a very similar strategy to the tee shot. And then we see this as the green that could ultimately have some potential for some expansion and potentially a new rebuild. I think the current green aims you a little away from the clubhouse when you're coming in. A lot of people are going to want to play on the right side here with this bunker on the front. So we think that by reimagining this a little bit, having some more pin locations up here, that also gives you the opportunity to look more towards the clubhouse, just makes this a stronger finishing hole overall. So that is the overview of all the changes. I know everybody has questions. Andy, if you want to jump in and add anything else?
No, I would just end by saying, as Samantha mentioned earlier, we certainly are in the conceptual stage. We're happy with what we've shown. We think we've addressed every one of our priorities as best as we are able to, while keeping what I think is a golf course that is very indicative and feeling like the course that everyone knows. So. So Samantha, I'll hand it back over to you. Just let us know how to handle the questions coming in.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. So next, Chair Dival, if you want to either have the committee members ask questions of the consultant or staff, or you can choose to hear from the public and then further comment, or you can do both. You can have questions now and then hear from the public and then have more questions after. Back to you.
Option 3. I want to ask some questions.
Okay.
I'm sure the committee does, and we'll take some public input, and then we can follow up with any further questions. First of all, doing all of this redesigning and everything, and it was my impression from the last meeting that we had those priorities that you were talking about, Andy, and I think we prioritized them into the irrigation system first and then new maintenance equipment. And we really didn't get into the design features and everything, but my first question is, how much would all this cost?
We are in the process of putting together a budget. We've got some drafts, but we don't have a final budget, so I can't say for certain, but we are certainly in the middle of, we have all these quantities ready to break out for a final budget. So at this point, I'm not comfortable stating that number because we're still developing the plan, but we will have that as soon as possible. And I always say this too about the budget. Things cost money, so if there's some things that you don't like about this plan, let's take them out. But if you like them, then I will keep it in and I will give you what I think is the right budget for it.
If I can add to that, Andy, and he kind of hit on it. So part of this is going to be, depending on where the committee goes this evening or this afternoon, that's going to help drive what our budget kind of fans out to be. An irrigation system, though, we know that's going to be anywhere from $6 to $7 million. So that is a huge ticket item. That's out there. We're talking about the entire course. It's a huge priority for Jordan and the future of the course, though, as well. So when you look at that alone, that I want to be very realistic that we hear that's a priority, and we want to address that. So anything coming outside of that, we're going to have to look at as we continue down this path.
Josh, one of the things that you mentioned, or Andy, I'm sorry, was the best way to do timeline-wise to implement these things was to close the course. What would that time period be?
Yeah, good question. I would say typical projects like this in California take less than a year. I'd say a construction project anywhere from 6 to 8 months with 3 months of growing time and give another month to get it, ready. So no more than a year. It would be typical.
All right. Those were my 2 questions.
Yeah, I got a couple if you don't mind. Did you guys take into consideration the fact, and the golf ball's going to get rolled back a little bit here in a couple of years? So the length of holes get 15%, 10-15% longer for everybody just in general?
We are hearing that. We've heard it for 10 years. They say it's going to be rolled back 10%, but that 10% is only going to affect the tour player, from my understanding. And the USGA is working with the ball manufacturers to make sure that the average player that swings it under 100 miles an hour won't see any difference. So, it's really hard to predict the future. What I would say is that this golf course isn't meant to be played by the people who hit it 300 yards or more. It's meant to be played by the common man and the person that hits it 180 to 250 yards. And so to me, that was my focus.
Okay.
But every now and again, we want to host some city championships. We want to bring some people in that come through town. We tried to tuck a couple of tees and put a couple of bunkers in some interesting places to keep those guys interested. So I would say we try to do more in terms of, placing that bunker strategy and tees for flexibility, but not a whole lot to worry about peeling back that guy who hits it 300 bucks.
And do you know what the current driving range length is right now?
235.
235?
That's a very good question. I should know that. Josh, you know that off the top of your head? 200 yards, 210 yards?
It's 235.
Yeah, a little bit 230, yeah.
Okay. I was just curious comparing to, because you have it going out to 300 plus another 35 yards for the grass tee and more than that. So just wondering if there's some savings there of maybe, doesn't have to necessarily be that big.
That's true, and I think if we have to kind of think in terms of whether or not the range is a priority, because whether it's 285 yards or 310 yards, you're still going to need the space. What we like to do is that if you're going to actually have a learning center or a practice area behind the tee, at the end of the range, we want that to be plenty far so that there's no thought of any balls getting hit into that area. So, and then also in terms of the overall space, we have narrowed that. One of the things I could do is I could go find some local ranges that you guys might be familiar with and put it over the top of this footprint. This is still a small footprint range, even though yours is so small, it makes this one look big. It's still not very big in general. So I think we've kind of balanced it. I would say if you want it to be smaller, then we would try to do something without putting the double-ended aspect of the range on. We would eliminate that.
Yeah, I just wondered if
I would love
that,
that.
sorry, I just wondered if that had less impact
The
on.
shorter the range gets, you will have to consider netting on the back end, so you currently have that, but, as you peel this back, right now, one of the benefits of this is you add a little length here and here, so maybe that balances out to net zero, but that is something to consider. That backstop, the closer it gets, has to be taller, and it has to come all the way across the range there, so that was also a consideration.
Okay, thanks.
Anything more?
A lot of things, but I'm interested in hearing from the players that are come to comment first.
A couple of questions from me, and I'm very interested in doing it.
Speaking
It doesn't work.
of, does it?
Can I ask, one of the top 5 lists that we had was the social space and club environment, and I see you've got plans for the front and the back of the clubhouse, but there doesn't seem to be any plans of actually extending the service of those areas. So, for example, at the moment we have one bar and a function room, And so without creating another bar, another area for food, no vendor would be able to service those areas that you're suggesting. Is that part of your thoughts?
Josh, zoom in onto the range T area. Yeah, so there's no question that the programming and how these spaces, join together needs some more refinement. But what we've imagined is the square that you're seeing on the edge of the T be an extension of the main clubhouse. So there'd be an upper level. I see that to be a viewing deck. I see it to be connected to an upper level of the double-decker range T. And so that could be serviced from the level of the clubhouse. The bottom level would be kind of up to you all as far as how you want to go. I mean, it would be easy enough to make that its own little self-contained space. We have enough space to do it. But I also see that to be a little bit more flexible, maybe less maybe not even enclosed, so that this whole area below can get serviced on grade out of the snack bar area in the corner of the clubhouse. But there's still enough that needs to be refined here, because we'd like to know more about how this space would actually be separate or the same. So we have thought about it, but I think it needs a little bit more direction as far as what the full building would look like.
If I can also support what Andy's saying, and to your comments, Andy, we hear time and time again from golfers that they can't get into the bar area once there's an event. And in assessing this, looking over this for months now, it's not the building that's inadequate. It's the contract that's currently in place. We're beholden to where Wedgwood's at. Their contract doesn't allow access after 2 p.m. if they have an event. That's not the facility's fault. That's the fault of the contract that we're currently in. So a key part of this, Wedgwood's contract has an option for renewal come 2027. I think the committee's aware of that, and so I hope the public is as well. That conversation needs to be approached at that time, and if we're going to go out to get a new operator, if we're going to change the terms of the existing contract with Wedgwood, we need to change it then. There's no reason why the lower snack bar can't be more widely available. Why can't they do a broader service to golfers for an extended period of time? There's no reason why they can't be open past 5 p.m. other than it's in their contract today. So when we talk about the vision for this space in particular, and looking at some of the budget impacts and those elements, staff have felt like, let's use the existing facility as much as we can, but rethink the scope of the contract as it exists today. That is likely going to be a better fiscal plan going forward, because I think we have a lot to work with as it stands. We just need to remold what we have, if that makes sense. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a real, it's exciting. I like the idea of what you're talking about with the bunkers, with the greens. The redesign, you're going to hear a lot about that from folks sitting in the room. I've had no less than 12 emails from many of the people sitting in this room about the rerouting, I should say. But your presentation really laid it out and said, okay, this is why we have to expand the greens, this is why we have to redo the greens, and of course everybody, I think, agrees on the aeration. On the practice facility, which I'm keenly interested in, not just for us, but for all the families that I see come and practice and chip and bring the kids and all this kind of thing, and to give an opportunity for the golfers before they tee off, a place to warm up. One thing that I would suggest is to take a look at the way you have the chipping area and the putting green, and because there's, I think, half the people that play this golf course walk. They're not going to walk all the way to the end of the 300-yard driving range to chip and then walk all the way back. They just won't use it. I suggest putting it within the first 50 yards of the existing putting bays, hitting bays, push the hitting bays out 50 yards, and then you don't have the problem with them hitting into the people that are practicing on the chipping green. And then this idea of removing the 13th hole, which is a love it and hate it hole for all of us. I think that's a magnet for e-bike vandalism and dogs, and I just heard a lot about it. I don't think it makes any sense. I would suggest take that concept and put it at the end of the parking lot where the existing chipping green is, because there's a lot of space back there. And I guess that's it for me. The rest you're going to hear from the public.
Maybe I'll just say one thing then before we have the public speak, which is I almost always play as a single because I can't get a 4-person team time, which means I play with 3 new people every time I play. And I probably asked hundreds, if not thousands, of people what they would improve about the community when they play. Not one of those people in all the years of asking has ever said the value of the golf course. People are passionate about the value of the golf course. I think while I appreciate the intention of this plan, I think we're prioritizing dollars and the range over the golf course, and I think it should be the other way around.
Okay. Why don't we hear from the public? And Bill Freeman, you're first. Would you come up to the podium there?
You know, I had prepared a statement that would last exactly 3 minutes, but after hearing basically the overall conversation here, I think I can shorten it pretty much. Basically, I agree with some of the things that you were proposing in terms of, for example, the irrigation system. Clearly that needs to be fixed so that there's not so many brown spots on the course all the time. Also, the bunkers are in very much need of improvement. The driving range, I don't think, at least I don't have a problem with a double-decker driving range to accommodate more people. And all you would have to do, as far as I know, is extend the height of the fences to improve the safety issue of the driving range, which does need to be addressed because even slices off of the driving range go on to, hole number 6 now. So I agree with a lot of the changes that basically the golf committee recommended. But in terms of the course itself, it seems to me, I agree 100% with Mark in that I kept hearing the word social, 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 and I don't go to play golf as an entertainment venue. I go there to play golf and I socialize with the individuals that I happen to be playing golf with. So to keep emphasizing social, social all the time, I just agree that it's not a practice facility, it's a beautiful golf course designed by a brilliant designer, and changing it from a 72 to a 70 just completely doesn't make any sense to me. You mentioned about changing these bunkers into the Billy Bell design when you're destroying the design of the course. So you're adding some Billy Bell designed sand traps, but destroying this concept for the course. I love the course. My brother-in-law happens to be very wealthy. He's been a member of some of the nicest country clubs you could imagine. When he comes out to visit here, I say, well, you probably want to go play Monarch Beach, or you probably want to go play Pelican or something. He goes, hell no, I want another damn chance at that muni. And I just hate to see that go away. So I want to thank the golf committee for your suggestions, because I think all of your particular suggestions are right on. Appreciate the city council and what you guys do here. And that's about, I've been watching a lot of the confirmation hearings on TV, so I will now donate the rest of my time.
Thanks, Bill, for your input. We have Chuck Gibbon next.
As I mentioned, my name is Chuck Gibbon. I'm a longtime member of the men's club and active participant at San Clemente Golf Club. I'm not a resident of San Clemente, but I love the golf course. I was at the prior meeting where we set our agenda, what we wanted to accomplish. And I actually worked as the first marshal when they changed over to the city employee to be marshals. and I work the golf course too as a grounds crew member. So I have some insight to things on this course. And I've talked to other members of the men's club to get their opinion on the changes that have been projected. And I think I have a consensus of what most of them think or would like to see happen. And the number one was our number one item on the agenda is go ahead and fix the irrigation. It has to be done. Then upgrade the equipment for the grounds crew. The third item was to fix the traps, upgrade the traps. And then the fourth item was the driving range. Besides that, as the gentleman before me mentioned, this course is a classic course. We don't need to expand the greens. We just need the greens to be updated. With the equipment they're going to get, they will be. We don't want to change this course. We don't want to add traps at strategic spots. People love this course as is. It's played regularly and it's crowded all the time. There's no problem with the increase of pricing. People will pay extra to play this course because they love it. So I'm just begging you to leave the course as William Bell designed it and keep the course in just maybe a little bit better shape when we get the equipment for the workers. They do a great job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chuck. Rebecca Farrell. Rebecca, are you still here? There you go.
Well, I'm one of the shorter golfers. I play with the 19s, and we love the course. And we have waiting lists for people who want to play with us. And I had a whole different program started, but you guys answered a lot of my questions and concerns. And I think that is. And the gentleman talked about social. We socialize as the 90s, and we socialize with the 18ers, and we have our own thing. We really don't need our whole family to come down and watch us putt. And that's not what we're here for. The other thing that concerned me was I saw that your budget and your course activity report says how it's increased since 2020. You've gone from 900,000 to 1.5 million. You're making some money in. I was just curious. The profit that you get off the course, how much of that is set aside for maintenance and for these improvements that need to be done over the years? Is there a percentage that's just set aside, or is there a percentage that goes back to the city for them to do whatever they want in the general fund? How is that money broken down? Does anybody know?
They have a budget that's created every year, the fiscal year, for the golf course. I don't know the numbers in my head.
Is that ever published to the public?
It's open.
Oh, okay. But I was curious, I mean, is there a percentage that has always been said that we save 10% for maintenance or for improving projects? I saw that you had in your fund $1 million of a set aside. So we're talking about the irrigation being $5-6 million. And would take, we don't know an estimate of time, but that's $5-6 million. Right now, our reserve fund is $1 million. Where's the other 4 or 5 coming from? Do we know? Do we have any idea?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say we can't interact with members of the public from the dais.
Okay.
If you start, sorry. I'm happy to answer questions from the committee after everybody gets through their 3
But
minutes.
these are just questions to
Certainly.
think about.
Certainly.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Rebecca. Jeannie Mills.
I'm going to actually let somebody else take my place. You've answered a lot of my questions, and
Okay, Jeannie. Hey, Don. You're up.
Me?
Yes.
Oh.
Short list.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah. I like to keep it moving.
I'll keep it short, keep it simple. Everybody knows who Leo Smith was?
Yes.
Leo Smith?
Yeah.
Well, back in 1950, we put a freeway right through the middle of town, right?
Yeah, it took my house.
Does anybody like that freeway going right through the middle of town? Is that a mistake that we wish we could take back? So I think if we change the course, we'll be looking back at it like, the freeway running through the middle of town, right? Like, oh, why did we do that? You got Torrey Pines, you got Pebble Beach. So listen, I think the whole reason for all of this, right, is because we need to figure out how to pay for this new irrigation system, right, Jordan? We need to figure out how to put it in and get some new machines and everything. Isn't that what this whole it's all about? Where we're going to be now? Oh, we're going to do this. We might as well, take a look at that, right? So if we're just looking for the irrigation system and to improve the course and get machines and stuff like that, I think that'd be enough, right, for right now, because that's going to be probably the better part of, $7 to $10 million, right? I don't know how we're going to afford it, except for if we raise the fees. And I'm not talking about raising the fees for us, for the in-town guys. We pay enough in taxes and stuff. Raise them for the out-of-towners, right? Everybody else, listen, I'm telling you, countywide, you're going to pay $100 to $150 to play golf. What do we charge? Half that? We're stupid. We're putzes. People are coming in and poaching our course, and we can't get a tee time because we're the cheapest game in town, right? Raise the freaking rates, and we can pay for the irrigation system. Instead of making $2.5 million on our green fees, we can make $8 million. Seriously, if you charge me $40 and them, $100, I'm telling you what, that equals about, if you look at the numbers, it equals, probably $7 or $8 million bucks. There's how we pay for the frickin' irrigation system, right? There you go, man. It's already there, guys. It's already there, right? Okay, so we all know a history lesson, right? We even have it on our golf course, okay? We made some mistakes on the golf course. Years ago, we replaced all of our greens with bent greens. Remember that? We used to have the most beautiful Poanya greens in the world, right? Remember Bud Clark?
Sure.
He had the best greens ever, right? And then we replaced them with bent grass, and then we were putting over broccoli tops for, I don't know how long. Months and months, maybe years, right? Until the POD finally took completely over, right? So we learned that. We learned our Spanish pine lesson last year, right? The Spanish pine off the 16. Does that stop Cody Gascoigne from hitting it right over that tree? No. No. He will still cut that corner. It's the ugliest tree ever. We spent $26,000 on that tree. It was stupidity. It was a waste of money, right?
Oh, no.
Is that me?
Yeah.
No, I was just getting on a roll.
You were going to be quick.
All right. I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna cap it off with this.
You got no more time.
All right.
Thanks, Don.
That's it, guys. Build a subterranean parking lot, charge $10, and you can pay for the parking lot inside of 4 years. And you can hit over it from the 9th tee box to the 9th green. It'll be down below.
That's going to bring us into new business.
Do you want to give any more feedback to staff and our consulting team on the master plan? Do you have any motions and seconds and recommendations that we can collectively take back?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Can I ask a question?
Kurt, you're going to have to fill out a speaker card and give it. You can do it after. Just come up to the dais for now. I know where to find you.
All right. My name's Kurt Lukey, and I just had one quick question regarding something real specific with that plan, and that's putting the putting green between number 1 and number 10 tee. I like the idea that it's a bigger putting green and everything, but putting greens are usually very, very social. There's always a lot of conversation, a lot of talk, a lot of this and that going on. And from looking at that image, it looks like the number 1 and number 10 tees are really, really close to that putting green, and it's going to be really loud for people that are teeing off. So maybe I'm looking at it improperly or something, but the people that designed that, has that come up as far as possibly being an issue? That's it.
Thanks, Kurt. Anybody else? No, go ahead, Ryan.
I'd like to, I would like to, I don't know if I have to make a motion for this,
Well,
but I'd like to see.
I'm sorry, so excuse me, we have a gentleman who submitted a card, but it doesn't seem like we have it, so why don't you go ahead and jump up there?
Okay.
I have it for 5A.
No, I didn't reference any agenda item.
You have pace of play and deposit.
Yeah, so what is that? It's open comments.
So this item,
I'll change the item, just bring it up.
yeah, we'll switch it to 4A.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I didn't reference anything. Anyway, my name is Jim Nahara. I want to touch on pace of play. You know, I play Monday and Fridays. We get tea times. You know, I have 3 guys, and the 3 of us get tea times. Maybe we have to have 2 computers, I don't know, but, you know, we got up this morning at 5 to 6, and we had 3 o'clock. But I guess yesterday I played, and we went from like a 4-hour round, we typically play Monday and Friday, you know, at that time of the day, to yesterday afternoon, I played on Thursday, it was like a 5-hour round. And we just noticed a lot of people don't have etiquette when they play. You know, they're not at their ball getting ready. They're waiting for other guys to hit. They don't get off the greens. There's just, and then I just think that there should be, just a minor campaign, maybe in the clubhouse on the first tee box with signage that says, you know, these etiquette issues. You know, play ready golf and be ready to play, because it just seems like it drags it down from 8 o'clock Monday tee time to 11 o'clock Wednesday tee time. The other issue I wanted to talk about was that deposit. There was a Survey Monkey a couple of months ago, maybe, I think I replied to it, and suggested maybe the LA County method would work, about the $10 deposit. But I guess I'm concerned about that too, because now it's going to be on one credit card, and we're going to have to be exchanging money with other guys, and my understanding is that, you know, it's non-refundable. And if people, right now, I mean, there isn't that problem in terms of making a tee time. We're pretty conscientious. When we don't have anybody within 24 hours, we get it back, so that somebody else can get that tee time as well. And also in the LA County plan, there's another fee of $10 if you notify them within 48 hours. So now it becomes a $20 surcharge, you know, per player, and it's going to be on one credit card. So if you do go to a plan like that, I just thought that maybe it could be a little more flexible on how people can maybe get that money back within 24 hours, or, you know, not charge the penal $10 charge if they notify within 48 hours. So those are just 2 issues I wanted to cover. Thanks.
Yeah.
I make an additional comment on the current topic of this session.
Yes.
Which is, when we set out the priorities, I think someone noted, we set out the irrigation system as the #1 priority. That's seemed good. Nobody's complaining about the irrigation system getting redone. Maintenance equipment, no one's complaining about the maintenance equipment. Bunkers, nobody's complaining about the bunkers, right? I received numerous texts and emails as this sort of gotten out about the routing. I guess the practice range is an issue, but it was our 4th biggest issue, and it seems to be issue driving. I guess, can we ask, or maybe consider a revision to the plan that focuses on the priorities and puts the driving, you know, the different options of the driving range is maybe a little less impactful on the course routing. You could, you know, look at options of moving 2 back a little bit, moving 3 back a little bit, or other ways where just really, like, I guess, not a holistic redraw of the golf course, or even just raising the nets. And I think also from the congestion perspective, if you really took a look at when it's congested, obviously weekend mornings is congestion, but the real congestion is after school, after work, and that's because it gets dark early and there's no lights. So I guess maybe just think about what the impact of putting lights on would be, and give people an extra 2 hours after dark, the congestion problem might just disappear. So anyway, I guess what I'm asking is maybe to consider something a little more light touch that deals with the priorities we've established.
I thought we had established that in the last meeting, that irrigation and maintenance equipment were our top priorities. I don't know where all the redesigning came from.
I'd just like to agree with everything you just said right there, and to the point of, so everybody agrees on what, from what I've heard, and I've had numerous emails and a number of conversations, as far as the practice range, what I'd like to do is in the business world, when we had a problem or what my boss called an opportunity, we have a workshop on it. And maybe this is sometime down the road, but have the interested parties, the people in this room that would want to spend the time, take input that we've already got, and sit down as a committee with staff to take a look at what could be done in the near term, long term. I mean, if we're talking about a 30-year plan, that's a whole different thing. But I see things, and we've talked about some of these things. There's so many bushes around the clubhouse. There's congestion right now with carts and people walking through there that may be done in phases. So that's just an idea. But I think putting a formal workshop together on that, I would like to see something like that.
Second that motion. Second that motion, Bobby.
I want to make a motion that we focus on irrigation and the maintenance equipment and put the redesign business on the back burner.
Second that motion. No redesign.
We talked about irrigation. So it was irrigation
Stop hitting them
maintenance
in the
equipment
bunkers,
bunkers.
Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're clear from staff's perspective. So you want focus on maintenance equipment and irrigation, and we won't touch facilities or any operations. Is that the understanding?
That's what I'd like to see done. I understand that we have to move number 2 eventually if we extend the range, but it's working right now, and let's get the irrigation and maintenance equipment first.
Okay,
That's my
and staff take direction from the committee and the council ultimately, so this recommendation can be passed to the council. I understand that the redesign and the rerouting is not the appetite for the committee and the public. That's okay. I want to remind the committee that the point of a master plan is to look at the entire golf course. So if it's no longer about a redesign, staff are happy to take that recommendation to council and we won't go forward. Or you can seek to have a alternate plan come back that limits the rerouting but does address some of the concerns with the practice areas.
I want to say that design people had some great ideas. I like the whole designs and stuff, but I don't think it fits us.
And it's too much money.
We don't even know how much.
Maybe what we're asking for, I think, is some different options on improving the range that are less impactful to the overall course. Right, rather than just the big plan that's just presented.
Yeah, so if we focus on the 3 main things are irrigation, maintenance equipment in the bunkers, and some options on how we upgrade the practice area, which is the driving range, mainly.
This is what we came away with, this is what we proposed in the last meeting, these 5 points, 6 points.
6 points.
So what you're saying is do away with everything but the first 2?
Well, I think we can do the bunkers are a part of it, but that's normal maintenance through the course of the year. Like we didn't have to go through this for putting up the silver tees. You know,
Well, I mean, Sam's a good point. Is every 15 years master plan, right? We should think about the art of the possible. I think the message, though, is we don't want the course rerouted. So what's possible with making the range a better experience, along with the other, priorities that we established.
Yeah, I understand that we can. There's a time frame that we have to get the greens rebuilt and expanded, and that just makes sense. Put pin positions, so you don't wear them out. But all that takes money. So that's my proposal. My motion is to just get the first couple of things done so we can move on.
There's 3 things.
3 things.
If I can make a recommendation, then If the golf committee can establish a ad hoc subcommittee, a subcommittee of 2 members of the golf committee that can work a little bit more closely with the consultant and staff outside of this meeting, and then we can come back to finalize the direction and any other recommendations.
I'll volunteer for that.
Oh, that sounds fine.
And Mark,
Yeah.
Mark,
It'd
yeah.
be my pleasure.
There we go.
So I'll need a motion and a second to establish an ad hoc subcommittee for the golf course master plan. It sounds like we have a recommendation of committee member Zumberge
I'll
and
make a
Mayor
motion that
Schaub.
Rob and Mark serve on the ad hoc committee for a liaison with the design people.
I say no.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on to the consideration of the non-refundable deposit fees. Anybody getting any feedback on that?
I guess I would just ask what the objective is.
Yeah, what problem are we solving?
Yeah, what problem we solving?
Debbie, if you can bring up a few of those slides. Okay, so this item is coming before the committee based on a number of complaints that staff receive on an ongoing basis about tee time accessibility. What we see often is there's a lot of folks that are, they're swooping up tee times right at 6 a.m. We can see that from the backside of it. And then eventually they're released. There's a concern that that is impeding access to tee times for everybody, whether that's a resident cardholder or a non-resident. This proposal in front of the committee tonight is intended to eliminate a grab of a bunch of tee times and then a release back. It is modeled after the LA County model. It's similar to a similar setup. If you're familiar with the San Clemente Junior Lifeguard Program, we had the same issue. We had people that were taking up a whole bunch of times, and it wasn't allowing people to get access to the Junior Lifeguard Program. Just last year, we reduced that to you can only get one tee time or one registration, and we saw a huge change in the behaviors of how people reserve their Junior Lifeguard Program. So mirroring that to golf, what the goal of this is to look at if there's now a deposit, if something has to be put forward in order to reserve a tee time, that will eliminate some of the strain of a scramble of tee times. Everybody's going after the same time all at once, because now you have to pay money at the front of it. There is rainouts, there's exceptions for rainouts. There are refundable refunds that can be given in the case of a rainout. And this is the proposed language if the committee's interested in going forward with this policy. I will be transparent and say this has also been an ask of some of our council members. So I think this is an issue that's raised to that level as well. And at this point, there's a number of things that FORF has in place to eliminate bots and booking agents and all of those functions. We have all of them in place except 2. One of them being a booking deposit that gets applied directly to your green fees, and the second is to charge the entire green fee at checkout. That, in staff's opinion, is not the right move. The booking deposit seems a little bit more reasonable. It's completely applied to your green fee, so nobody's paying more money at the end of the day. What you're doing is applying that deposit. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's really where this is being driven from. I don't know how often the committee hears from members of the public. I hear from folks daily about how frustrating it is to get a tee time. So again, this is just an opportunity to talk about a solution, but I'm happy to take any other feedback if there's other ideas out there.
Could I ask Benny, could you give us some input on your thoughts here, please?
Looking at this, it might help with the tee times, and I'm talking about a small number of people that will book on a given Saturday or Sunday 4 times, and one individual will not haven't seen for 6 or 7 weeks, so he's booking tee times for his friends. We never know who's coming or not coming, so overall, I think it might help. Another factor that might help is if you limit 1 tee time per account. Will it help? I think so.
That was gonna be my recommendation, but limits.
How the heck can they book more than one?
Yeah,
They can book
I
two.
didn't even get one.
They can book two. I know people that have multiple resident cards and book for 4 tea times on a Sunday afternoon. They're able to get 4 tea times. So something like this might help. Should it be necessary? No, but it might help.
Personally, I don't like the non-refundable business, but I can see it being used for repeat offenders to keep booking and then sliding out.
That's what I would consider this for, the repeat offender, because there are very conscientious people that book and cancel well in advance, and there's some that aren't.
Right.
And I think all this needs to be laid out very clearly of what can be refunded, there's plenty of time to talk about that, to get it all laid out.
I think this is
On
more
the
along
website.
the lines of cite, tow. If they keep repeating booking times and then canceling them, then yeah, I can see it. But for somebody that, comes up and says, oh, I got a call and I can't make it after all, or I'm sick, I don't want to be charged to
Yeah, that's not what any of, unfortunately, there's got to be just laid out exactly the rules of.
Can the system implement the one booking per resident card?
I believe so, but I think that has to be approved by city council.
Yeah, we can implement one tea time per user.
I'd rather just take the steps rather than go to, like, I guess, the most extreme thing. I think that would be super helpful. But we also know in the master plan we want to deal with the rates, right? And making sure that the spread between resident rates and non-resident rates helps rather than more residents play. And then maybe even if you don't cancel it a certain amount of time, then there's a cancellation fee. But collecting a fee up front from everybody, I don't think that makes sense. But
I'd like to share some feedback that I received the last couple of days, both in person and in emails. And one was this person's tight schedule schedules change a lot. She'll make a tea time a week ahead of time, and then something came up and she's got a meeting and she has to cancel that and wants to make another one, and we'll use Notify to try to catch one that opens up. And so this works for her. She's not in favor of the $10 because her schedule changes so much. Another comment is that there are several groups that consciously get online at 6 o'clock and try to book a few tea times, 3, 4 together, so they can play as a social group, not a formal social group, and not a block of time. From what I understand, they'll book 3 or 4 times. If they don't need a 4th time within an hour or so, they'll let that one go, and it's available, and I'm sure it gets full. So this, to my best of my recollection, that's what I've heard. It seemed, and Vinny, maybe you can answer this. Does the Pro Shop charge for no-shows?
We do. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that are repeat offenders don't have their credit card up to date, so when we try to hit it, it won't work. So then sometimes I'll try, and it's not my decision to do, but those people should be suspended from being able to book a time, but that's not my call. But
And Samantha, can the system be made to make sure that the credit card is active? Because
Not unless you're charging something at the time of checkout. That would be another benefit of the deposit.
Oh, so the deposit would be made on the credit card, of course.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think you have a couple speaker cards before we get too far into the discussion. Thank you.
Morris Thomas, would you care to respond to the non-refundable deposit fee?
Hello, committee members. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Morris Thomas. I'm from the Southern California Golf Association. I don't want to take up so much of your time, but definitely heard about this and wanted to let you know that we have worked with other municipal golf systems within Southern California that have implemented the deposit. Of course, we've also been to a lot of committee meetings such as this as well. And there has been a lot of hesitation, but from what we've seen and from pilot programs stemming from about 6 months and beyond now, they have proven to be highly successful, and these are multiple systems. So just wanted to show our support of being here and just let you know if you do want those statistics or stats, I would be happy to share them with you as well.
Thank you, Morris. James Nadera. James?
I guess he
Huh? No show. I'll charge you. Well, items from the stand.
Can I speak on this?
Sorry, I think
Oh, here we go.
we need some closure on that item. Need a motion or something.
Okay. Tucker, do you want to
Yeah.
give us your input on it?
Yeah.
The master plan, okay.
I'm sorry, this would be for the tea times conversation.
The tea times?
Yeah, I changed my mind. I'm more passionate about the tea times. Tucker Woodsell, St. Committee resident, use the course all the time and really struggle with finding tea times. And what really bothers me is, we religiously check to go find tea times. I've got we all have demanding jobs, but just I would love to be able to plan out when I play. And oftentimes the only way I can do that is if I walk into the golf course as a single and see multiple cancellations the day of, right? So it's not just a few people, right? To have, I don't know, a dozen spots open up every afternoon for singles means I think there's a lot more abuse in the system than people are realizing. And I play a lot of courses, and most courses have some level of deposit. I'm totally in favor of having 24 hours or 48 hours, things happen, maybe the first time you don't get charged. But I don't think it's at all impractical to think that, having some credit card on file, having a few dollars here or there with some level of grace, I think would open up a lot. Because it's almost impossible for me to go find a tee time to play. Thank you.
Romas.
My name's Chris Ahola, I'm a resident of San Clemente, and I play the course every week. And as far as the deposit goes, I'm the guy who has to get the tee time every week and then try and find 3 more to play with me. And sometimes it's hard to get 3 more people to play because they're on business trips going all over the place. So it'd be nice if you had like a 24-hour, 48-hour period where you can cancel and get a refund. I don't like the idea of the non-refundable deposit. Things happen, plans change. It'd be nice to be able to back out at least, like I said, 24 or 48 hours ahead. So, that's my 2 cents. And going back to the other thing we talked about earlier about the golf course and the changes, I agree with just about everything everybody said here. No need to redesign the golf course. Improve the bunkers and the equipment and everything else, make the bunkers better. And if you could find a way of improving the pace of play, that would help a lot. I played Sunday, teed off at 12:30, took us 5 hours to play on a Sunday. I mean, it's got to be something where you make tweaks somehow and keep pushing people along.
Marshals.
Yeah.
Give the marshals the...
Do something. I don't think we have a hard time getting people to come to our golf course to play, right? We don't need to redesign it. But what's frustrating is the pace of play. And as the deposit goes, please make it refundable within a couple of days. Thank you.
Yeah, pace of play, it's one putt pickup as soon as you hit the green. Let me get this straight, Samantha, for this $10 deposit, non-refundable. So I make a tee time, and I get charged an extra $10 on top of my green fees?
No, you would be charged $10 up front, and then once you get to the pro shop to check in on the day of, it would be the green fee minus the $10 deposit.
Ah, okay. That's making more sense. I thought this was just another $10 or something. All right, any discussions, further discussions from the committee?
Could it be a $10 charge, but if you cancel within 24 hours or within 48 hours, prior to your game that you don't get charged. You know, that money can still be sitting in your account as towards your next game. Rather than
The committee has the opportunity to make any suggestion it wants to. This is going to go to city council eventually. So what you're saying is require the deposit at the time of booking and then give people 24 hours to cancel and get their $10 back.
Well, I was sort of meaning they could cancel 40 hours prior to the tea time and get their $10 back.
So that becomes then a refundable deposit.
Yes.
Or, you brought up an interesting point. It could be credited to your account for future use. So you're still paying the $10 that you canceled.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
I don't know that. I'd have to look to see if FORP allows to run credits on accounts. I'd have to look.
How do we treat rainouts?
So rainouts, this is the recommendation, and again, this is what SCGA has recommended with LA County. We would refund the deposit in the event of a rainout, assuming that you haven't already gone in and done it. So the pro shop or the starter's office would have the opportunity to go in and refund those $10 across the board. And the goal, this is not an effort to make a bunch of money. This is really a genuine effort to try to give better access to tea times, which again is something that staff here consistently has a frustration. So we're not trying to penny pinch and keep deposits, and that's not the goal here. If there's dire circumstances, because life happens, I know that, Vinny knows that, the pro shop staff know that. We want to afford flexibility, particularly to our longtime golfers, our resident golfers, those folks who are our regular patrons. We want to give that opportunity to be a little bit more flexible as well. But from that perspective, I'm again happy to take direction from the committee, and then this recommendation's got to go to the city council.
I think I'd rather see something like a $10 charge if you don't, to Vinny's point, if you cancel within 24 hours. And if you don't have a credit card on file, then your account gets put on hold for future reservations. I mean, it's frustrating not to go to tea time 7 days out, but it's also frustrating not to get a tea time 4 days out. And so there is sort of access to the week, and I think there's some people who like to try to play tomorrow if I could. So for sure, you don't want to be able to walk up and have tons of cancellations and the course not getting filled. Not the issue, the course is getting filled, but it would make sense to analyze people who are not showing.
I would say that the "for any reason" is rather harsh. And I see the point. However, I use the Notify app, and I've had multiple opportunities to get a tea time for 2 to 4 people on a regular basis, and sometimes I don't need them because I found something else or was going somewhere else. So I think the Notify should solve, and it has for me personally. I don't think a lot of people are using it to get tea times. I think they're just frustrated. They can't get a tea time at 6:01 second, and they just give up.
But the Notify doesn't allow you to get a tea time for 4, right? It's just for
Sure
1.
it does.
It does? Oh.
Yes. I think there should be a little more community education on this, and because it is, so it's gone to city council. City council is aware of this. It is a big thorn in everybody's craw about getting tea times. That, I think, is a better solution than a non-refundable for any reason, because I've just heard people give me real good reasons why they had to cancel. They had to go out of town and had a meeting, or they got sick. I mean,
It's only $10. If it works, then it's only $10. This CGA said it works.
With that, do we entertain a motion on this subject? Anybody want to propose?
Mark, repeat again.
I propose a $10 cancellation fee if you don't cancel within 24 hours. And if you don't have a credit card on file, your account goes on hold until you settle that.
I like it.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take a bow.
Figure this out.
Can we get into the quarterly golf reports? Who said it?
To me?
Samantha?
Jordan, do you want to, I have a quick update on Notify, actually, but I'm going to save that for staff communications. So you've got the quarterly golf activity report. If there's any questions, you guys are welcome to ask us, or other than that, it's like receive and file.
All looks legit to me. Quarter, slight decrease.
Samantha, are we limited to 2 hours on that? That's the rule, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to wrap. If there's no questions on the activity report, we can jump into staff communications. I have a quick, Jordan might have updates, but Debbie, if you can bring up the one slide regarding Notify. This is information, I think it's helpful, based on Robert's comments as well.
There it is.
This is, as of January 28th or so, what our Notify data looks like. So you can see at the top, the total confirmed bookings via Notify is $222,000. And that is dating back to when we implemented in early June or so. So 6 or 7 months of Notify, we're seeing a huge return on that. Total reservations, 2,300, total rounds booked is 4,600. So I think people are learning about Notify. Certainly can be more education. And in, you know, the folks I talk to, they're maybe not as technology influenced as some others might be, so I think there's a learning curve with Notify. It's very user-friendly, but some of our golfers, they find it hard to get online and try to handle a text message or an email and get to that tee time. But other than that, this is a great value for a software that only costs about $5,000 to implement. This is a huge return for us that we wouldn't otherwise be seeing. And then a couple other updates. We've got one more committee meeting in May, and then we do look to, the city clerk will be addressing vacancies within the committee and term expiration. So you will see an email coming from the city clerk in the next month or two. And I think that's all I have on my end. Jordan, do you have any updates from your side?
No, not really. Nothing unusual. It's usually project season. We've done a couple things on our end. We've fixed some cart paths, leveled out one in 10T, but we're not really getting winter. Things are still growing, and it's going. Yeah, it's been busy. So you know, we're spending a lot of time fixing vandalized greens as well, unfortunately. So that's kept us busy. But you know, on top of that, it's also the time that I encourage my staff to take vacations too. So you know, we're staying busy and not biting off the projects that I thought we would, but you know, we are being very productive with our limited staff. So.
Are you still fully staffed, Jordan, right now?
Yeah, we have one individual on medical leave, but other than that, we're fully staffed. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I got. And aeration will be on the 14th and 15th, so we're already starting to plan for spring aeration. So yeah, I can't believe that's coming. So that's really all I have. Keep it brief.
How about the committee? Bob, you got anything?
I have one thing. You know, we hear a lot of pace of play, and we have marshals. I don't know how many marshals we have. Are they under your supervision?
Yep.
I would suggest that some of the marshals interact with us and come up and say hi and how's it going. Others, I don't see them making a whole lot of difference in the pace of play, and in fact, between 16 and 17, there is one gentleman that's there a lot, and I think by that time it's a little too late to speed up play. I did talk with one of the marshals, and I asked him what his thoughts were, and he said it starts happening around 3 and 4, and at 6 when people go to eat something, and so that's not up to you, that's the snack bar. I'd like to see something where we kind of address that a couple different ways. Snack bar being one of them, at the turn and after 6, and maybe with the, maybe some sort of education with the marshals. So that's my comment.
Andy, anything?
Just a question, Samantha, are we going to look at increasing the fees, or is that be left with the master?
That was all tied into the master plan. Regardless of changes, there was always an intention to look at fees.
That was my question too. I mean, I think there's obviously an ongoing issue with more golfers than there are golf spots. And, you know, if we address the fees in the master plan, I guess the timing of that, I don't know how long it's been since we've last addressed that, but I think it would be good to look at the difference between the resident rate and the non-resident rate in an effort to make it less desirable to drive down from York Linda to play here because it's half the price of where you play home.
All right. Jordan, I got one for, is it possible to get a couple of cups put back into the practice screen for one of our golf professionals that teaches the junior program? The kids have nothing to putt to. We got a practice green and a putting green with 1 cup.
Oh, the chipping green?
Chipping green, yeah.
Yeah. We can look it up.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
He'd love it. And that's all I got. Entertaining motion to adjourn. Please.
I'll say, okay. Maybe got it.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.